What is going on, everybody? Happy Mother's Day. Happy weekend. Hope you're all doing well. My name is Tom, back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the state of our offensive line. Now, it's clear as day to all Giants fans that the Giants did not prioritize their offensive line in the 2021 NFL Draft. Regardless of what was said, I know there were some rumors the Giants were interested in guys like Liam Eichenberg and Landon Dickerson, but there was an opportunity to take some in the second and third round, but the Giants clearly did not prioritize it. I know Dave Gettleman came around and said that the value just wasn't there, but there were opportunities to take some that the Giants did not take. So obviously they do feel some sort of confidence heading into 2021 with their offensive line. Now, before I dive in any further, just want to let you all know, please subscribe to our Instagram account, Big Blue Avenue, our Twitter account as well, and most importantly, our YouTube channel, as you can see on the ticker below, at Big Blue Avenue. Really appreciate all the support that we've gotten before and after the NFL Draft. It's been a lot of fun doing these videos for you. We're going to start doing them more consistently, but I wanted to get this one in today on our offensive line. So, want to bring up a few things about our offensive line and what to expect in the year 2021. Obviously, the Giants last year, those five guys, and Andrew Thomas, Will Hernandez, Nick Gates, Shane Lemieux, and Matt Peart played a lot of snaps. Also, we had Cam Fleming, who left in free agency. We signed him to a one-year deal. He will not be back in 2021. The Giants released Kevin Zeitler in the offseason, freeing up $12 million in cap space. And the Giants, obviously now, the biggest issue is who they plug and play in at each of those two guard spots. Now, just a quick rundown on who we currently have on the offensive line on our current roster. Of course, I'm going to start with left tackle Andrew Thomas, who just came off his rookie year. He played in all 16 games as a rookie. He started in 15 of them. He allowed 10 sacks, which was the most at that position in the NFL, which is not good, but majority of those came early on in the season. He was also dealing with a foot injury that he had surgery on that was kind of put under the table that not a lot of fans knew about. But Andrew Thomas had a much better second half of 2020. I have high expectations for him heading into next season. At left guard, it started with Will Hernandez. Will Hernandez, through 3 years now, has 39 career starts. Only played in 13 games last year, starting 7. He started the first 7 and then had a COVID-19 stint where he missed a week or two, allowed just 1 sack and over 500 snaps. I think he's an average NFL guard. Again, former second-round pick in 2018, Dave Gettleman's second draft pick ever as the Giants GM behind Saquon Barkley. And then Nick Gates, another offensive lineman we want to talk about, did not allow a sack in over 1,000 snaps. In fact, he was the only player on the entire offense to play every single offensive snap. Gates, fun fact about him, he was undrafted in 2018. Now, I know the last few years the Giants have been looking to improve their offensive line in the early rounds of the draft, but I think what's important to remember is that it's not about where you take offensive linemen, it's about the quality of the offensive linemen that you're taking, how much scouting you're putting into these guys, how much of a team fit are they, will they gel, will they match the position-based need. I think Nick Gates now switching into the center position, the Giants have found a real diamond in the rough, Swiss Army knife, they like to call him. Gates missed 2018 due to an injury. He was placed on season-ending IR early on in the season. That was his rookie year. Gates was an undrafted free agent. Giants obviously have a big history of getting undrafted free agent offensive. Seibert was undrafted. Sean O'Hara was undrafted, although Sean O'Hara started his career with the Cleveland Browns. The point is the Giants took a chance on him in free agency back in 2004. Not to mention, it's not always about drafting linemen early on. Obviously, it's really tough to find really good offensive linemen in the NFL, which is why teams that have really good offensive lines are typically the most successful. But David Deal, former 5th-round pick, obviously you know who he is. Former left guard, left tackle for our couple Super Bowls. Kevin Booth out of Cornell, former 6th-round pick, late-round flyer who the Giants got. So, yeah, there's a lot of guys on this line that I think are going to be big pieces to this team in 2021, and that's why I don't want to give up on Shane Lemieux just yet. Shane Lemieux is the next guy I'm going to talk about. I just mentioned Deal and Booth. mid to late round picks, both day 3 guys. Shane Lemieux, same thing, day 3 guy out of the 5th round last year. Obviously, he struggled. Kevin Zeitler did show signs of regression last year, but I'm definitely going to miss him. He allowed just 2 sacks and over 1,000 snaps. But Shane Lemieux played in 12 games last year, started 9, allowed 5 sacks in a little over 500 snaps, but he allowed a pressure every 12 snaps, which is not okay. He's solid, consistent run blocker, but one of the worst pass blocking guards in the National Football League. Although one of the positives about Shane Lemieux is that he only committed 1 penalty. Rookies typically commit a lot of penalties, whether it's a holding or a false start. But Shane Lemieux is definitely a guy that I'm looking forward to seeing in 2021 in an expanded role. Another rookie from last year that should get an expanded role is Matt Peart. Matt Peart played in 11 games last year, started just 1. He allowed 2 sacks. He was used situationally. Now, he was also dealing with an ankle injury similar to Andrew Thomas. That's why people were wondering last year, well, why is Cam Fleming getting more reps than Matt Peart? Why is he starting more? Well, Matt Peart had that injury that he was dealing with. Expect an expanded role for him this upcoming season. Obviously, Nate Solder will be returning to the team after opting out in 2020. 127 career starts for Nate Solder. Started all 16 games in his first 2 years as a Giant in 18 and 19, starting left tackle for Eli Manning. Solder had 0 false starts in 2019. Actually, that was the first time since his rookie year. But now the concern with Nate Solder is, again, opted out a year, hasn't played up to the potential of his prize contract that he got with the Giants. That 4-year, $62 million deal, which Solder is now taking a substantial pay cut in 2021 to stay with the team. Obviously, the Giants brought in a couple of free agents. Jonathan Harrison over from the Jets, played mostly on the Bills practice squad last year. Harrison has 42 career starts. Expect him to compete for that backup center guard role, along with Zach Fulton, who we brought over from the Houston Texans, who has been an NFL starter since 2014, also played for the Kansas City Chiefs. Zach Fulton has 90 career NFL starts, but what's concerning about him and Harrison is that they're both 29 years old, approaching 30, and Zach Fulton gave up the most sacks from the interior guard position last year in the NFL. So I'd expect Zach Fulton to be a backup. Then other guys we have in our roster, Kyle Murphy, who's an undrafted free agent from last year out of Rhode Island, who stuck around. And then obviously Chad Slade, Jackson Barton, and Kenny Wiggins are still around. And then a couple of undrafted free agents we picked up in this year's draft, since we didn't draft any in our 6 picks. Brett Heggie out of the University of Florida, and then Jake Burton out of Baylor, grad transfer from UCLA to Baylor. Brett Heggie is probably the more exciting out of the 2. Granted, he was the center for Kyle Trask, who went in the 2nd round to the Bucs. I think Brett Heggie has a real shot to make this roster. Now, I know Gates is probably your center of the future, but Heggie can potentially push guys like Kyle Murphy, Jonathan Harrison, and Zach Fulton. I think Solder's probably the only guaranteed backup to make the roster at the moment. I think Fulton, Harrison, and Murphy are going to be battling it out with guys like Chad Slade, Brett Heggie, and Jake Burton. So I kind of took a rundown of the offensive linemen we currently have on our roster, but let's talk about some of the keys. There's 3 reasons why I personally think the Giants' O-line will be better heading into 2021. And the first reason is the coaching changes. Last year, the Giants went through a coaching change on their offensive line. They hired Mark Colombo, which I think was more of a Jason Garrett hire rather than a Joe Judge hire. Colombo was fired mid-season. Then the Giants went with Dave DeGuglielmo. Googs stayed with us the remainder of the season. We did not bring him back. Now we hired Rob Sale, former assistant coach for the Raging Cajuns, has some experience with a couple players on this roster. Now, he follows both Heggie and Burton on social media, which is interesting. You want to get to know your players. I think Rob Sale will be very important to this O-line in 2021. This offensive line ranked 31st in the NFL as a unit last season. So I think the coaching change is going to be big. He produced guys like Robert Hunt, who's currently a starter for the Miami Dolphins, and then Kevin Dotson, who is on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who is probably going to start next year. I think he produced some really good players there. And I think having a young offensive line with a young O-line coach will help the Giants in 2021. So the coaching change, I think, Sale, in my opinion, is a better fit than Colombo was. So My next reason that the O-line will be better is continuity. Now, if you look at some of the past Giants teams, right? For instance, let's take the 2 Super Bowl teams. Since 2007, we had, as I mentioned earlier, Dave Deal. Our left guard was, I want to say, Rich Seibert. Yep. Again, 5th-round pick, undrafted free agent. Sean O'Hara was our center, undrafted free agent. Now, Chris Snee was a 2nd-round pick at a Boston college. He was our right guard. And then Kareem McKenzie, we signed from the Jets. So those 5 guys right there were all together for at least 3 years in a row. I think 4 if you go to 2010. I think that's when Seibert and O'Hara, that might have been their last years with the Giants. But, yeah, so there was a 3 to 4 year stretch where we had the exact same unit going out on the football field every single year. So I think continuity is very important. Minus Kevin Zeitler, Giants are bringing back 4 of their top 5 to 6 guys. Now, Cam Fleming as well. See, I don't really count him because Matt Pert did get a lot of reps at right tackle last year. But the Giants have not had continuity over the last 8 years or so. I look back, I think of guys like Eric Flowers, Justin Pugh, Weston Richburg. Those positions were always changing. Jim Cordell. David Boz was good for a couple of years. But the point is, guys, names were flying in and out. J.D. Walton, Bobby Hart. You probably don't even remember some of these guys. That's how bad the offensive line was. We've been talking about the offensive line for the last 7 to 8 years now, and that's a big reason why the Giants team has gone downhill. And that's the exact reason why Eli Manning's play went downhill towards the back end of his career. Poor drafting by our previous GM and the fact that the Giants were unable to build continuity. Now, I think the fact that they didn't draft any offensive linemen could be actually a good thing. Now, I understand it is concerning. That's one of my biggest concerns of the draft, but I think it could turn out to be a nice a nice little, what's the word I'm looking for? A nice little look into the future for the Giants offensive line. That O-line a decade ago got the job done. I think this O-line can as well. I think they're only to continue to grow and get better. Again, 3 rookies last year who started a lot of games for you or appeared in a lot of games, in Pert, Thomas, and Lemieux, to pair in with Gates, who was starting his first year at center. So with the exception of Kevin Zeitler, you pretty much had 4 new starters in there. And, of course, Will Hernandez. But I think if you go with Thomas, Hernandez, Gates, Lemieux, and Pert, which is actually what I expect the line to be, I'm not sure who will play left or right guard among Hernandez and Lemieux. But whoever does, I think the other is going to start at the other guard position. Unless, obviously, the Giants there's a couple free agents out there the Giants could sign. Potential free agent targets include the likes of Trey Turner, Austin Ryder, and then Nick Easton as well. Nick Easton and Trey Turner are true NFL guards. Austin Ryder is more of a center. But I think any of those 3 would work if there's an injury, or you can get them at a much lower price than what they're worth if you sign them now. If you wait a little bit, they'll probably take contracts for less money. That's what we did with Logan Ryan in the last offseason. So continuity is my second reason. My third reason is we added more weapons to this offense, right? What does adding more weapons do? Well, it makes our offense now less predictable. We'll see a lot of less stacked boxes against us and no more 8-9-man boxes, which will help the offensive line, right? Ingram and Slayton will have more opportunities to create mismatches with the addition of Kenny Golladay, who had 11 touchdowns a couple of years ago. Kyle Rudolph, who's a former Pro Bowl tight end for the Vikings, hasn't dropped a pass in over 2 years. I love that addition. Him and Golladay will be great. John Ross has a lot of speed. We just drafted Kadarius Toney in the first round, not to mention Sterling Shepard, who's our longest tenured player and knows the scheme and the system. So I think that right there goes to show the more weapons we have on our offense, the more dynamic our offense will be in 2021, and it will help the offensive line improve. Not to mention, I forgot the most important name, Saquon Barkley, who's coming back from a torn ACL, and we hope he can be what he once was before the injury. Now, I got to say, though, in 2020, over the last 8 games, the O-line performed much better in the run game, not the pass game as much, but the run game was a lot better. In my opinion, right, there's all this hype now, so we brought in the weapons. We nailed the draft, despite not drafting a lineman. I still think I'm giving us an A minus for the draft. The Giants need to be at least a top 20 offensive line this year, or close to league average to be a playoff team. I think top 20 is probably a realistic goal. I wouldn't be surprised if we even perform around league average. This unit was ranked 31st last year, as I mentioned earlier. It's going to be tough. Also, this wasn't the best draft for interior offensive linemen. I mean, I know we got more weapons in the draft, but I mean, you could have went Ben Cleveland in the 3rd round or Quinn Miners. You could have went Creed Humphrey in round 2, but you saw Cleveland drop to 94, Miners drop to 98, Creed Humphrey dropped to the Chiefs towards the end. So that goes to show you right there, the media and mock drafts were valuing interior offensive linemen a lot higher than the Giants and the rest of the NFL was. So obviously, these teams have the inside scoop on these players because they're physically there with them. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what the Giants' offensive line does in the year of 2021. Again, folks, it's a beautiful day outside. Really appreciate you all watching this video. Make sure to give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. I'm going to try to have more of these videos come out during the week, try to talk about more topics to get you guys engaged. Going to get some guests on soon as well, maybe a couple of content creators. I know we've had the entertainer, Bobby Skinner, in the past. Looking forward to talking to more of those guys and picking their brains a little bit on the New York Football Giants. As always, guys, thank you so much. If you like what you watch, again, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate you all. Happy Mother's Day to everybody, and I will catch you all on the next video.